Welcome back to the Lumbermill Devlog. Sorry it's been so long since the last one. You might know I've been travelling in New Zealand for the last 7 weeks, which ended up being much busier than expected, so I didn't actually have that much time to sit down and edit a video. I'm back in the UK now though, and hopefully we'll get back onto the weekly video schedule I was on before. I have, however, been working on the game. Over the last few weeks I've almost entirely rewritten the way conveyors work and made 2 different machines, the splitter and the combiner, which I'll cover in this video. The idea for the splitter machine is to take a single conveyor belt as input and distribute the contents of that conveyor belt over 1, 2 or 3 output conveyor belts. I started with a placeholder sprite with red lines outlining where the object should go. To start with, I had a single input and 2 outputs. I created the class for the splitter and set it up in Unity. It didn't actually take that much work to get conveyor belts to attach to the arms of the splitter, with the conveyor belts knowing whether they're connected to an input or an output, as you can see here. I actually got a working machine up and running quite quickly, but I soon discovered that was full of problems. The first few of which you can see here, with logs stacking on top of each other when the conveyor belts are full, and the conveyor belts not actually linking up in the right direction. In the interest of speed and wanting to get a video out while I was away, I foolishly didn't actually fix all these bugs and pretty much just copied and pasted the basic splitter code to make the combiner. Here you can see me just swapping everything around so that rather than taking multiple inputs, the combiner has multiple outputs. I've only seen this happen once, but for some reason 3 trading houses spawned on top of each other. This happened because the game was spawning the trading houses before confirming their location was valid, which meant multiple spawned before a valid location was found. That was pretty easy to fix. Having realised the error of my ways and copying and pasting incomplete code, I realised that the 2-prong design of the machines was actually a pretty inefficient use of space, and the machines would be easier to draw, more efficient, and better from a gameplay perspective if they took up a single tile. Here I'm drawing a new placeholder sprite for the combiner with 3 inputs and a single output. I figured 3 outputs is better than 2 and a single tile of space is better than 4. I got the new design working in a basic form by just repurposing the old code, but discovered that whenever there's a gap between items on a conveyor, the splitter would be inconsistent in choosing a direction for that item to go. Ideally, the splitters should change direction once per log. That was fixed by only changing direction when the machine is handling an item. By this point, I was halfway through my trip and had been to Hong Kong, Australia, and finished a road trip up the South Island of New Zealand. In the limited free time I had, I tried to get as much done as possible because it's quite easy to get out of the flow of development if you take a long break. I'm actually writing the script in a hotel room in Hong Kong before a final connecting flight back to London. Anyway, it was then time to draw the machines. I went for a wood plank building with an arrow on the roof to dictate the direction of input or output depending on whether the machine is a splitter or a combiner. The splitter has a red arrow facing into the machine to indicate input, and the combiner has a blue arrow facing out of the machine to indicate output. Up until now, items on the conveyor have always travelled on top of the machines, as I hadn't thought of a way to show objects entering and exiting machines due to the 2D nature of the graphics. I solved this with the splitter by breaking it into 2 parts. The conveyor belt part on the base and the roof part which goes over the items, where the game believes the roof part is closer to the camera than the base part. This worked great in the game, except in the build menu where only the roof part was shown. I had to create a separate sprite showing both parts combined, which is only used in the build menu. Work on the combiners happen in parallel to the splitters, and they work in essentially the opposite way to each other. Here I was testing them in combination with each other and discovered that combiners were causing items to skip a conveyor belt. I fixed this by checking to confirm that an item was not moving before it travels into the combiner. I simply exposed a variable called isMoving in the conveyor belt item code, and finally I got the combiner working as it should. After a lot of trial and error and bug fixing on various plane journeys, including an almost entire rewrite of the conveyor belt system, I finally got all the machines working in unison, and here you can see an example of what sorts of systems can be built using the new machines. A viewer asked about starting a Discord for the game, and it's definitely something I'll set up if there's demand for it, so let me know in the comments if you're interested. I think it'd be a great way to hear your views, discuss things, and for me to make announcements. YouTube won't actually let me make text posts until I hit 1,000 subs, which kinda sucks. That's all for this week. I'm hoping to resume the normal schedule as of now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.